Greetings, class. We meet again here in Mr. Billups's room or from the comfort of your home. Today, we're going to be discussing the origins of the 13 colonies. Before we get into it, I just want to make the disclaimer that this is a topic that is very, very expansive, and we are not going to cover everything in detail today, but we're just going to go and give you a brief overview. So, in the interest of time, as we always say, let's jump right into the meat of it, okay? We're going to start off with Jamestown, okay? Here's a nice little picture of Jamestown, the colony, the first colony that the British established. So we're looking at a century, maybe a century later, a little over a century after Christopher Columbus lands into in the New World. Now we have other people from other parts of the world who are taking trips to the Americas. We already had the Spanish going deeper and deeper into parts of Central and South America. Now we see the English are coming to America. And where did they land? No other place than Virginia. Now, the colony that they established was known as the Jamestown Colony. It was established by the Virginia Company in 1607. Just like Columbus and just like the conquistadors and other people who explored many parts of Central and South America, the main goal was to find gold. And this colony, a very interesting thing, out of 150 colonists, 35 survived in less than a year. And this was mainly due to the fact that they did not have any clue what they were going to get into in terms of the environment, the terrain. How was the weather? Could they survive the winters in America? Because the winters were very harsh at the time, as they are now. I think we would all agree. Um, Due to the fact that this is a new land, there wasn't people weren't necessarily flocking to populate this land in large numbers. So we had several systems that were put in place. One of these systems was the head right system, which said that for every person that let's say you were a rich person who wanted to come to the New World, if you came to the New World and you paved the way for someone who would be an indentured servant or something like that, then you would get 50 acres of land. So if I was a settler and I wanted to pay someone's passage from England to the New World, I would get 50 acres of land. So you know what began to happen. The very wealthy people began to pay the ticket or the price of travel for many, many people who will become indentured servants in the New World. And that's how they got many large tracts of land. Also, we had this thing that we call the indentured servitude. Indentured servitude was basically a practice where someone would come and work on the land for a fixed period of time, and this is how they would repay their debts. So not only did the people who obtained 50 acres of land make a profit or benefit by bringing people over with the land, but they also benefited from the servitude of those very same people who they paid uh, to get over here to America. Now, a lot of plantation owners, again, these were the people who were typically paying for the passage of other people. These plantation owners became very wealthy in Jamestown. We're going to see this word planters a lot in the coming weeks. The word planters, just remember that it's related to the topic of the plantation owners. It's the same thing, okay? Now, we're going to hop into New England because what caused New England to be settled was something a little different. Now, if we go into the 1620s around this time, we note that in England there were many religious movements taking place. We had already broken away from the Catholic Church at least about 100 years ago at this time, and people want to practice the religion the way that they see fit. So you had one sect of Christianity called the Puritans. They came and they established what we know as New England. So we got the New England Patriots and things like that. This is a reference to this time period. So the major reasons for the Puritan pilgrimage to New England was to establish a religious community according to their beliefs. Okay, according to what their understanding of Christianity was. These two colonies that they established was the Plymouth colony as well as the Massachusetts Bay colony. These colonies they had a system of law that was based on religion. Okay, and because they had a system of law that was based on religion, this had many implications. Some rules we might not think would be fair today, but this was a religious colony, and they had religious rules, and that was the end of it. However, there were people who did not necessarily agree with this. These people were the likes of Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson. Both of them disagreed with such a strict application of the Puritan beliefs, and in many ways they separated. Roger Williams, he separated and went so far away from the Puritan beliefs and the practices of the Puritans at the time, um, that he began to support a lot of the Native American rights and a lot of Native American movements. And Hutchinson, her beliefs were at odds and in conflict so much with the Puritans that lived there at the time, that she began to move further and further away from New England until she found herself into the territory of other Europeans who had established in the New World. Due to the growing population of Europeans in the New World at this time, a lot of tension began to rise between English settlers and the Native Americans, and we're going to touch on that in a second. Later in class, however. Now, before we end, I just want to touch on this last thing because it affects where we are today. We live in New Jersey. We are right next to New York. The place where we live right now was not initially an English colony. It was established by the Dutch West Indian Company in 1621. This colony was established to expand its fur trade. Okay, the Dutch were interested in fur. It wasn't necessarily a slave thing, a free labor thing. Okay, although when the British took it over, even before the British took it over, slaves were actually traded on down on Wall Street. But the British saw it as an obstacle, so it was taken over. Actually, when they took over the New Netherlands from the Dutch, the British did not have to fire a single shot because the Dutch governor, was disliked by most of the people who lived in what we call modern day New York and New Jersey. But modern day New York and New Jersey were created out of this. The Pennsylvania colony also was a part of this New Netherlands colony. Excuse me. The Pennsylvania colony thrived off of the skilled craftsmen and agriculture, farmers. But it was founded specifically by the Quakers, who practiced Christianity differently than other sects. Primarily, they disregarded the religious ranks that existed, and they practiced a form of non-violence. They didn't believe in the use of violence, and they were more tolerant to different ideas. These would later become the people who support slave abolition. Okay, many of the citizens who lived in Pennsylvania, because this was established by William Penn, the great William Penn. There's a university that's named after him. The citizens of Pennsylvania, they owned 50 acres of land and the right to vote. Now, this is just a brief overview of what we're going to talk about in great detail for the coming weeks, and I hope you guys will join me for the ride.